A quiet unease has been simmering in the shadows of Westminster until now. For days, whispers of a disturbing pattern have been growing louder. A series of fires, each more brazen than the last, all with one chilling common link: the Prime Minister himself. Now, authorities have made a move that changes everything. A suspect has been charged, and the details are far more explosive than anyone expected. This isn't just about arson, it's about intent. It's about power, and it's about something far darker lurking beneath the surface. Let's break it down, but first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Something deeply disturbing has just unfolded, and it's rocked Westminster to the core. For over a week, the media and political circles have been awash with speculation over a string of suspicious fires linked to Prime Minister Keir Starmer. What began as quiet murmurs of possible vandalism has now exploded into a full-scale criminal investigation. And today, a major development has just landed. A man has officially been charged in connection with 3 separate arson attacks, each one directly linked to Starmer's personal life. But this isn't just some reckless protest or act of petty destruction. The charges leveled against this individual are among the most serious possible under UK criminal law. Let's break it down. The suspect has been named as Roman Lavrinovich, a 21-year-old Ukrainian national from Sydenham, South London. He now stands accused of 3 counts of arson with intent to endanger life, a charge that carries the possibility of a life sentence under the Criminal Damage Act 1971. These weren't random fires. According to the Crown Prosecution Service, the attacks occurred over a tightly packed 4-day window and appear to have been deliberate and targeted. May 8th, a vehicle belonging to Starmer's household was set ablaze in Kentish Town. May 11th, a fire was ignited at the entrance of a residential property in Islington, an address closely linked to the Prime Minister. May the 12th, just a day later, yet another residential fire broke out in NW5, again with ties to Starmer's private residence. Each incident raised alarm bells, but until now, authorities remain tight-lipped, only confirming that Counter-Terrorism Command had taken over the investigation. That alone suggested they were dealing with something far more serious than just anti-government graffiti or a vandal with a grudge. Then, in the early hours of May 13, Lavrinovich was arrested under a warrant obtained by the Metropolitan Police's Counter-Terrorism Command. He has remained in custody ever since, as prosecutors work swiftly to build their case. This morning, Bethan David, head of the CPS Counter-Terrorism Division, made the stunning announcement: following a review of the evidence provided by the Metropolitan Police Service's Counter-Terrorism Command, we have authorized criminal charges against the 21-year-old man after 3 fires in North London. Roman Lavrinovich has been charged with 3 counts of arson with intent to endanger life or being reckless as to whether life would be endangered. These are not minor charges. According to Section 1.2 and 1.3 of the Criminal Damage Act, this means prosecutors believe the fires either had the explicit intent to kill or seriously harm someone, or at the very least that such consequences were recklessly ignored. It's rare for charges of this magnitude to be authorized so quickly, and it signals the gravity of the situation behind closed doors. The CPS also issued a pointed reminder: criminal proceedings are now active, and Lavrinovich is entitled to a fair trial. In other words, media restraint is now legally required, and speculation must stop, at least for now. So what does this all mean? First, it raises chilling questions about security failures around the Prime Minister and his family. These fires targeted not just property, but locations tied to the head of the British government. How did an alleged arsonist manage to carry out 3 attacks in 4 days before being stopped? Second, there's the geopolitical backdrop. Lavrinovich is a Ukrainian national. That fact alone will spark speculation, especially given Britain's involvement in the war in Ukraine, rising asylum tensions, and domestic debates over who we allow into the country and under what conditions. The political ramifications could be massive. Finally, and perhaps most disturbingly, what was the motive? Was this politically motivated? Was it personal? Or is there a far more complex story still hidden from public view? For now, the Crown and the courts will take over, Lavrinovich will appear before a judge, and the public will have to wait for the full picture to emerge. But make no mistake, this is no longer just about property damage. This is a story that has now touched the heart of British power, and it's far from over. In other news, Sir Keir Starmer has been warned his Labour government will face a rude awakening if it pushes ahead with plans to axe protections for Troubles veterans. Labour has repeatedly pledged to amend the Legacy Act, a piece of legislation introduced by the Tories to bring to an end vexatious prosecutions against veterans. However, there are now fears that the potential changes could bring hundreds of criminal and civil claims against former British soldiers. A petition launched by ex-Brigadier Ian Lyles, OBE, is demanding the Prime Minister rules out making any changes that would allow prosecutions to be brought against those combating terrorism between 1969 and 2007. The Protect Northern Ireland Veterans from Prosecutions petition, which was only launched on May 9th, has already surpassed the 10,000 signature threshold to mandate a response from the government. It is now closing in on the number 100,000 signatures needed to force a parliamentary debate, with calls for protections to remain in place growing by the hour. Speaking to GB News shortly after the petition surpassed 50,000 signatures, Lyles said, "The speed of the climb does not surprise me, as there is a good deal of anger amongst both veterans and members of the public by what they see as a betrayal by Starmer of our veterans. Terrorists get comfort letters and released from jail for murdering and maiming innocent men, women and children, and even babes in arms, while soldiers get hounded for doing their duty on operations they were ordered on by the government." Lyles, who also raised concerns about the changes enabling ex-Sinn Féin leader Gerry Adams to claim against the taxpayer for wrongful arrest, added, "The government needs a rude awakening for enabling this shocking persecution. Their job must be to protect serving soldiers and veterans from persecution, not encourage it, which they appear to be doing. What message does it send to the fine young men and women serving today? Make a split-second decision on operations and then be persecuted by the government, and apparently the Ministry of Defence years later to appease our enemies." Around 300,000 British soldiers were deployed to Northern Ireland throughout the Troubles, with 1,441 servicemen and women being killed during Operation Banner. The 1998 Good Friday Agreement later ensured that thousands of Republican and Loyalist terrorists were released from prison. Hundreds also received so-called comfort letters, informing them that they were no longer facing prosecution from the authorities. However, a push for an inquest to be held into how 8 IRA members were killed by the SAS in Loughgall in 1987 has raised concerns about two-tier justice after it was claimed that Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn had given his unequivocal commitment to a probe. Shadow Armed Forces Minister Mark Francois, who is joining Lyles in his push to protect Northern Ireland veterans, raised similar concerns as the petition continues to gain momentum. Francois, who served in the Territorial Army from 1983 to 1989, told the People's Channel, "This is two-tier justice. It's one justice for our Northern Ireland veterans, and it's a completely different form of justice for Gerry Adams and his cronies. How any self-respecting Labour MP could possibly vote for this when it comes before the Commons in a few months' time, and then still look their constituents in the eye defies belief." Philip Barden, who represented Northern Ireland veteran Dennis Hutchings while he faced trial over a Troubles killing before his death in 2021, also warned about the impact of repealing the Legacy Act. He said Dennis campaigned to stop veterans being hounded, and the Troubles Act did just that. Now it is being repealed, old veterans will be hounded again. The court process of inquests, civil claims and criminal prosecutions has become an industry and is said to be done by politicians to get to the truth. That is nonsense. The terrorists don't come forward despite their proteges being in government. 90% of the killings were by terrorists. The veterans accused of shooting may not even remember the event with any reliability after 50 years, and having been told they would not be prosecuted many years ago. Witnesses have died. Evidence has been lost. The system permits anyone accused to say nothing, and that is the sensible advice. This is political, the past is the past. There are thousands of victims of terrorist killings, bombings, extortion, kidnapping, and kneecapping who will never get justice. So some military veterans are hounded to seek to rewrite the past. This isn't social justice or justice. The only person who may benefit beyond the lawyers is Gerry Adams, who will get compensation for being held in internment 50 years ago. This government has enough to deal with without looking for problems that have been dealt with. However, Lawes's petition hit the headlines earlier this week, after 2 army regiments appeared to break military rules by sharing Lawes's plea on social media. Sharing the petition with a rifle green graphic, the Rifles Regiment said the government's amendment of the Northern Ireland Troubles Act will mean that veterans can be reinvestigated despite having previously been cleared of any wrongdoing. The post continued. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you have not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.